by the river. Freddie and his buddy are out there kayaking around trying to catch a fish. And I thought, well, why don't we come out and talk a little bit more about economics and this new monetary policy and the challenges that we will now face as individuals trying to make our own decisions on what it is that we need to do, either planning for retirement or trying to figure out how it is that we hold on to as much as we can while we're in our retirements. There is so many different decisions that we have to make based on our current circumstances that we have to own our own economy. Now, when we talk about what's taken place within the monetary policy and the conditions that we now face on account of it, it's now a new economy. We're split down, not down the middle, but we're split into essentially two different ways of looking at the economy. Most people are going to look at it as far as their daily perspectives, going to their day jobs, trying to figure out how it is that they get the house, get the car, have the ability to retire, all that stuff. That's what generally most people are feeling and thinking about when they're looking at economics. But there's a group of people out there who are very comfortable in what it is that they are doing, the position that they have taken, and they are doing quite well. So when we just look at this idea that the top 10% of households are doing 50% of the consumption, that doesn't leave a whole lot left for the rest of us. That means 90% of the people are doing the other 50% of the consumption. And then when you really think about it, if the top 10% of households are doing 50% of the consumption, I would assume, just by logically thinking, that the next 10% would do another additional 50% of the remaining consumption, meaning that the top 20% are probably doing somewhere between 70 and 75% of the total consumption. That does not leave a whole lot left for the rest of the 80% of the people out there. So when we think about what it is that's happening and how it is that our day jobs don't seem to make it and can't really find the ability to get that house and do the things which would normally seem like the American dream and easy to do, people question, why is this taking place? They wonder why it is that they can't do it. And then essentially they end up blaming politics because they really just don't know anything else or anywhere else to put the blame. But when we think about monetary policy and what's occurred over the last 100 years, but really what's taken place in the last 20 or 30 years, there's been a huge shift in the economic conditions in which that the Federal Reserve or the central bankers would plan to stimulate the economy, either causing a stimulating effect or a restricting effect. It was really, the focus was on the working individual, the working class. Like if they could increase the labor, like increase the amount of labor available for the worker, like ultimately lower the unemployment. I don't know how you want to look at it, but ultimately job creation, right? If they could get a economic condition in which that job creation would be prevalent within the economy, then you would find that the increase in consumption would take place shortly afterwards. So the Federal Reserve, if they wanted to increase aggregate demand or increase the consumption within the economy, they would essentially lower interest rates to get people hired. As people would then take place in the economy with lower interest rates, they would start, participating. You would find them buying houses, cars, going on vacation, but ultimately it was the expansion of business operations. It was the corporations and the businesses out there borrowing that money to hire people. So now when this occurs, it doesn't necessarily create the economic stimulus that the Federal Reserve would have expected in the previous decades. Like if they lowered interest rates, unemployment would lower, people, the unemployment would go down, people would get hired, money would get spent, and then that money would flow into the economy. But now 80% of the people doing that only participate in about 25% of the consumption. So they could here's a bunch of work for you guys, and we'd be like, oh, excited to go out there and work, eagerly work, and then realize that all this work that we do isn't really enough to participate in the economy like it once had. Like if all these people had gone out and worked before, you would have this profound impact in consumption. But now it doesn't really increase the consumption in a dramatic way. So now the Federal Reserve is like, okay, well, Raising and lowering the unemployment in order to create a stimulating or restrictive condition within the economy is no longer really the way that it works. Not for the Fed, not for the economy. So now they just focus in on the top 20%. If they can increase their consumption, well, then that would have a whole lot of economic activity because they're doing like 75% of the consumption. We're a consumer debtor based economy. So now people ask all the time, what is it that we need to do about this? Well, number one, we have to understand that it's occurring, right? Like, we can't just deny ourselves the idea that it's not occurring or that there's some sort of reversal to it. Like, I think that's the other misunderstanding about the situation is that people say, well, how do we fix it? How do we reverse it? And I just don't understand how that can happen. I mean, it's like a one-way street, really. I mean, we're going down a particular path and it's not going to turn around. And as much as people wish and hope and dream that it will, it doesn't, because there's really no example of that ever taking place. I mean, there's only ever increasing amounts of debt, ever increasing amounts of war, and ever increasing amounts of separation between the rich and the poor. And there's no reason to really believe that it's ever going to do anything but that, because there's really no example of it reversing, right? I mean, there's times where it's less, but there's always more, right? There's always more of it. More debt issuance, more war, more separation between the rich and the poor. So now I understand that for a lot of people, they're like, man, I feel hopeless now. But that's not really like, it's like hopeless. I mean, there's like plenty you could do. You just have to understand that it's not going to happen in the way that you had once expected it to. Like there was a time that people thought, okay, well, if I have my day job, then that should be enough, right? I mean, I should be able to have my day job and average day job and, make it through this world. But an average day job just won't cut it anymore. I mean, that's pretty obvious. And so we can get angry about it and say, hey, man, let's do something about it. Let's all get together. Let's make the politicians do something. And I think to myself, I don't know what it is that they can do. Like we're on a path of self-destruction that there is no way that we're ever going to reverse it. Like the reversal of it is such a painful experience that nobody is going to be willing to go through it. I mean, we should have gone through it during the great financial crisis. We should have done it during COVID. We should do it all the time, but we never do. We never, ever, ever do the right thing, which is to allow the system to essentially burn out the dead undergrowth and allow the corporations, the bad corporations, to fail in a significant way, one that's going to be quite devastating for the majority of the people. And because nobody really wants to experience it, we won't. Like they're going to tell the government they have to do something about it, and then the government will, and they'll end up printing more money because really the government can't do anything else. So understanding that the even the idea that asking the government for help is going to create the inequality by saying, hey, man, you need to do something about the inequality, do something. And the government says, okay, whatever we do is going to create more inequality. Yeah. And then the people say, well, okay, we'll do it. And then they do. And then it causes more inequality. And then they get even madder at the politicians to say, okay, do something about that. And it's just like, all right. And so on goes the cycle. All right. And I know people get frustrated at that, but just give me an example of when it didn't do it. Right. And then I'd be like, okay, well, here's an idea. This is what we can roll with. But that's not the way it goes down. Cantillon effect is very well in play right now. And if you can understand it and see it, you would know that the separation between the rich and the poor is going to continue so long as new money comes into the system. Now, knowing that new money is definitely going to go into the system, the average everyday worker is screwed. They're just screwed out of this. There's nothing that they can do except for make decisions for themselves that are going to better themselves. And most of the time, people just say, oh, no, man, one job should be enough. And you're working for the elitists by even wanting people to go and have two jobs. And I think to myself, I want you to have two jobs so that you can secure a decent interest rate beyond that of your occupation. Like think about that. Like I'm trying to get people to think about themselves in that way. Do work extra hard, extra long for an extended period of time to acquire a secured rate of interest beyond that of your occupation. And then people get mad at me and say, oh, dude, you just work for the elitists. And I'm like, I go be a slave. I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, if you don't like that idea, then you're essentially signing up for slavery. And then get mad at the politicians for conducting themselves the way they do. It's just like, To me, I don't look at it that way. I'm just like, well, I'm gonna figure out what it is that I need to do to increase my income, and that way I can deploy that into some sort of return on my capital investments. It's easy, right? It's easy as that. It's hard to do it, but it's easy to think about it. It's easy to think, this is what I need to do. I need to increase my income and deploy that money into something that's going to have a return so I can get a secured rate of interest beyond that of my occupation. If any working class individual is thinking anything outside of that, they're probably going to be left behind. That's all there is to it. Guys, I'm sorry. I had to put my sunglasses on here. I cannot. Hopefully. All right, guys. It is just too bright out here and the glare is just too much. All right. So, understanding that we have to do something for ourselves. We have to be in a position in which that we are going to acquire. Sorry, did these things hook up? Are you guys hearing me okay? These are meta glasses, and I don't know if they just. Uh, so, anyway, now that we know, right? We know that there's no hope coming from the politicians. We know that the economic conditions has now separated the rich from the poor in such a dramatic fashion that the poor just simply don't even matter anymore. Even a good average everyday job isn't going to cut it. They're focused in on the top 20%. And what is it that we need to do? We need to figure out how it is that we increase our income, lower our expenses, and then move that into some sort of return. And if we are able to do that, then we could at least have some sort of survival concept to this. Because most of the time people say, man, I just want to be able to work every day, work real hard, and then that's it. Go drink beer and hang out for the rest of the time and enjoy my weekends and stuff like that. And man, do I wish I could do that. Right? I wish I could do that. I wish that was the case. I wish I could just be down here kayaking every single afternoon with my kids and fishing and going hunting and doing all the other wonderful things. But unfortunately, if I was to do that, then I would not be able to buy into a house. I would not be able to buy into the assets that I'm purchasing. I would not be able to invest, or even the idea of business would not be there. Those things wouldn't exist. So you have to then understand that sacrificing your pleasurable experiences so that you can chase excellence is going to be the only way that you are going to be able to position yourself so that you can have free time. All right? Free time, the time that you don't have to worry about doing anything else. I was down here hanging out for the last couple of hours, making sure that these kids are having a good time. And look at them. Like, here, let me show you, man. That's what they're doing this for hours now, and it's a good time. And I don't have to, I don't have to stress about it. I came out, I did some work this morning. We did a live stream breaking down Federal Reserve monetary policy strategies and the new consensus statement, out here hanging out in the sun, enjoying Freddie and the kayaking experience and all the other stuff, man. This is easy, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be hard. You don't have to make it hard. Most people think, man, I have to make this hard. It has to be hard work. It has to be incredibly difficult, or else it isn't right, or something of that nature. Like, I've literally felt that myself, and I've seen other people say it too. And I'm thinking, no, that's not the case, man. Everything can be easy. Everything in life is easy, right? Like, abundance is easy, scarcity is hard. All right. You guys hear me okay? What is it? You look like a superstar celebrity. I appreciate it. Loud and clear. Good. These meta glasses are really cool. I really enjoy them. I mean, I've been wearing them around for the last couple of days. I mean, outside of, like, listening to audiobooks or doing whatever, but, they're very comfortable and, really nice. Anyhow, I'm not trying to promote them or anything. Okay, American are the most indebted. Yeah, and and I think that's the kind of like almost like the heart of the issue right there. The understanding that debt issuance and the ever increasing amounts of debt issuance is the reason why we are now in the position we are in. I mean, it did two things. One of them, it gave us the highest standard of living that you could ever possibly imagine. I mean, you think about it, the American way of life is pretty simple. Like, I mean, it's complicated in nature, but it's pretty simple in the fact that we get to like freely spend money. You get to buy the world's stuff, and all we have to do is just issue out paper for it. I mean, even the homeless I see walking around with cell phones and beer, and I mean, like I'm not trying to say that homeless can like the people who are in a homeless condition here in the United States have some sort of luxurious experience, but when you compare it to what some people are experiencing in this world, yeah, that's a pretty luxurious experience because some people in this world don't ever get to have cell phones and drink beer. Right? So yeah, it's a much different way of life here in the United States, and we are very much enjoying the luxurious experience for it. Put a little shade over there. It's kind of cooking up. All right. What does it say? Uneducated economist, do you think long-term rates will climb when the Fed eventually cuts? Long-term rates climbed last year after the Fed cut. Whoops. Stay up, guys. Okay, so I guess you're talking about whether or not the Federal Reserve is and their interest rate cutting is going to have an easing or tightening of financial conditions. I think that's ultimately what the question is saying because right now we have an easing in financial conditions. You can see it happening within the bond market. You can see it happening within mortgages, and the Federal Reserve hasn't done anything yet. Like, they talk about cutting in the future, but they haven't done anything as of yet. And so the idea of what it is that the Federal Reserve is going to do into the future has eased financial conditions. They can use their words. They know specific sentences to use in order to create this economic environment. Now, to think about like whether or not the cutting of interest rates is going to have an easing or tightening of financial conditions, there is going to be a message delivered with it. That message is going to ease or tighten financial conditions. That's the point. See, that's why you found that when the Federal Reserve cut rates last year, we found mortgage rates moving up. The interest rates actually did the opposite thing, is because the message that was delivered with it was one of concern, right? And it tightened financial conditions. But if it was one of general support, it would ease financial conditions. So there's going to be a message delivered with that interest rate cut. And when that message is delivered, it will either ease or tighten financial conditions. So that's, I believe, is the answer that you're looking for. Although it's not a mechanical one, meaning like when they cut, it will go to this or whatever. Like a lot of people want it to be 1 + 1 = 2, but it's not. It's feeling that the people are going to receive from the message that is delivered. And that's very critical because that's part of the credible threat theory. We have to understand just because the Fed changed the statement and they're no longer using flexible average inflation targeting to conduct themselves as far as where inflation is going to go going into the future, they're kind of reverting back to the old way of actually targeting 2%. Not moderately above 2%. That's what they've been doing for the last 5 years. That's come to an end. Those who've been following me on this channel really need to become a member of the channel so that you can go and watch the Federal Reserve breakdown or the video that we did breaking down the Federal Reserve speech and the new consensus statement, because there is a completely new strategy that has taken place. And part of that is actually looking at the dual mandate in two different ways. Right. I mean, I'm kind of going off here a little bit. I'm going to ramble, but the Federal Reserve is now looking at the mandate in two different ways. They look at the inflation and they look at the maximum employment, but they're going to start looking at it on two different horizons, on two different timelines. Okay. See, like before, these things had to work simultaneously, but they're not going to look at it simultaneously anymore. They're going to look at them independently and over different timelines. And now how that is going to incorporate into the monetary policy strategies, that's going to be a new one. We're going to all have to figure that part out. I mean, I'm just learning this myself for the first time, considering that the consensus statement just came out yesterday, the new one. So understanding that there is a shift in the way that they are looking at the inflation and the way that they are looking at maximum employment, and they are not conducting themselves in a way that is going to have these two working together on the same moment. They are now working on different timelines. And again, I don't know what that timeline is. I don't know, anything about the strategy of it because it's just come out. We got to learn that. All right, let me go and check out the super chat real quick. We got one from All Dayer Slayer. It's kind of like a play on All Nighter Hider. All right. If rate cuts have a lag period to take effect, will this new statement also have a lag? Well, I'm only going to assume yes, because most people don't even really look at the consensus statement or know that it even exists. So the change or shift in monetary policy and how that is actually going to incorporate itself into the current or into the current economic conditions, like basically how long does it take for the shift in this new consensus statement to actually impact the economy, I think is probably not very long, considering nobody really knew that the Federal Reserve had switched to makeup strategy. Right? They're just learning about the makeup strategy yesterday when the Federal Reserve started talking about it. It's like, yeah, we're no longer doing the makeup strategy. And everybody's like, what the hell's the makeup strategy? And it was like, oh, that's when the Federal Reserve let inflation run extra hot, extra long for an extended period of time to make up for the shortfalls from the 2% target. And people are like, what in the hell are you talking about? That's the way the Fed has been conducting themselves for the last 5 years. Didn't know if anybody knew that, but that's what's going on. Right. So now this shift is going back to the targeting of 2%, which is exactly what everybody thought was going on anyway. So is there going to be a lag to this? I doubt it. It's probably instantaneous. But ultimately, by the time they start incorporating the new strategy into the economy, ultimately like this new shift in how they look at unemployment or maximum employment and how they look at inflation, that new strategy, yeah, like that's probably going to have some sort of lag to it in how it is that we understand that and the decisions that we make. Most people will probably never know about it. Like 99% of the people will never know that the Federal Reserve is doing that. Right? Only people who actually read the consensus statement, internalized the consensus statement, went and read Jerome Powell's speech, or joined the membership here on the Uneducated Economist, and were watching the speech, watching the video this morning as we broke down the speech. Right? Now we get it. We may not necessarily have truly internalized it to the point that we get the strategy, but we know what they're talking about to the point that we says, hey, we got to focus in on this and learn what it is that they are doing. Right? Like we know what to look for, we know what to look at. Maybe not understand it completely, but we know where it's there, and we need to study it. Boy, the tide is really coming up. All right, let's check out that other one there. We got. All right, City Star Production 6703. If their goal is to hit 2%, how will they achieve this if they fail to do so in the past? Well, I don't know if they're going to necessarily. I don't think that is actually the intent, right? I mean, that's like the intent and like what they're speaking, like, hey, we're going to try and maintain a 2%, but they know that's not going to be the case, and that at some point they will be either above or below it. So ultimately, the way that they conducted themselves with the 2% target is that they would adjust monetary policy to meet the 2% target. If they were above 2%, they would try and tighten financial conditions to hit the 2%. If they went below 2%, they would ease financial conditions to get to 2%. They know they're never going to hit 2%. They're either going to be tightening or easing financial conditions. And most likely that's going to be from their words that they use and not necessarily from their actions. Right? So as long as they are in an elevated inflation scenario, which is above 2%, they will be in a tightening condition, meaning somewhere above neutral. But if they fall below the inflation, 2% inflation target, they will ease financial conditions and most likely try to have the Fed funds rate below neutral. Now, again, the idea of what it is that the Federal Reserve can do with their words can ease or tighten financial conditions. And if they happen to be right at 2%, and the neutral rate is 2%, and the Fed funds rate or the inflation rate is 2%, the Fed funds rate is 2%, and the neutral rate is 2%, now their words will be so powerful, right? Because they won't have to move at all. Everything will be lined up. And if they can just kind of keep snaking this thing in and out of this 2% target by using their words and forward guidance and an occasional interest rate adjustment, that's their plan, right? That's the plan. If they're above 2%, tighten financial conditions one way or the other. If they're below it, ease financial conditions. Now, if they adjust rates or use jawboning, forward guidance, credible threats, whatever you want to call it, that's the monetary policy. That's it, right? But they're not going to maintain 2%. That's not going to happen, right? Because they can't. Like, it's either going to be above or below it all the time, forever, right? I mean, they just can't do it because they've never been able to do it. You know, like if there was ever a case in history in which that they were able to maintain a 2% target consistently, then we would have examples of it. There is none. Right? So they can't, but they can try to maintain it. Like, it's just like up or above it, up, below it, up or above it, and just kind of surf this 2% interest rate, right? Either being above or below it the entire time. Nice. Look at all these comments. Thank you so much for them super chats. You guys are always so supportive of the channel. We got 179 people watching with 46 likes. Go out there and hit that like button. Let's keep breaking this stuff down. All right. Invest in fiat, counterfeit bills, trickle up economics. So we're in the next planned crisis to increase inflation, thus raise the neutral interest rate. Well, ultimately, I gotta stop saying ultimately. We were joking around about it the other day, and now I can't stop saying it. You having fun? Okay. Um, so, what am I saying here? I already just forgot what I was going to say. Oh, the next planned crisis. Um, we don't really know how far from neutral we are, right? Like, we could very well be at neutral right now. I mean, I mean, the Federal Reserve says that we're in restrictive territory, but nobody really knows where neutral is anyway. Like, they have their assessments, their best case idea of where it's at. I mean, I'm not saying that we're at neutral, but we could be very close to it. I do think that it's somewhat restrictive, but the neutral interest rate has been rising, making the economy far less restricted. And I think that's something that not a lot of people have internalized. So are we like into neutral territory as of yet? I don't think so. Could we be after the tariff, like the idea of the tariff inflation, the one time and price increases from tariffs? Could that raise the neutral interest rate from the elevated inflation expectations? I think it can. Right. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Federal Reserve is sitting there waiting, data dependent, thinking, okay, well, if we have tariffs and we have price increases, that very well could raise the neutral interest rate. And if it does, then they would be at neutral. If the inflation comes down to 2%, then the Federal Reserve really doesn't have to move. They could just sit there and just be right where they're at. And again, like, the whole idea of where the Fed is on their Fed funds rate is always in relation to the neutral interest rate. Right? It's always in relation to the neutral interest rate. And so when you hear people say, "Oh man, the Fed should be cutting 2 percentage points or something of that," and then they don't talk about where the neutral interest rate and whether or not they would be so many percentage points or above the neutral interest rate, then I don't know what they're talking about. Like they're really like, I don't know what they're not talking monetary policy. I think they're talking about asset increases or something. Like that would be the best thing that would happen for their investment portfolio. That's what I think, right? Because I don't see any kind of logical economic sense behind it. All right. Even Professor Hankey of John Hopkins noticed this 6% is what's required. So are they bringing down prices so they can buy everything up? I'm not sure what that means. Where is neutral when it's always moving? It's always been gas or brake, right? With the fiat currency. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's what the case is. But when you are trying to hit the gas and the neutral interest rate is near zero and the effective lower bound is now constrained the federal funds rate, like you can't get past zero and the neutral interest rate is close to zero, there is no gas. You have brake, you can brake, but you have no gas. And that's what the problem we were facing during the great financial crisis is that the Federal Reserve had totally won out and like loaded up on fuel, but then they hit the gas and it didn't do anything. Right? I mean, it launched asset prices, bonds, stock market, stuff like that. That all went up, but the inflationary scenario didn't happen. And in fact, it made it worse because all this unemployment started like you had unemployment fall to historically low levels. The end of the Obama administration, all the way through the Trump's first administration, there was historically low unemployment, and it failed to produce an inflationary scenario for them. That's the problem, right? Stimulating the economy with the effective lower bound is not easy to do, and even job owning and all the money printing in the world doesn't really do it. It does for a very short time. Let's see here. You've had the same amount of subs forever, I feel like. I don't know. I mean, I've gotten like, I don't know, 1,500 subs last month. So I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, it was like there's times in which that the YouTube algorithm or whatever will go through purges and they will like eliminate old accounts, dead accounts, like inactive accounts or whatever. And you'll find like a huge chunk of your subscribers will be diminished. Like you'll find blocks of them coming away. But, you know, for the most part, I feel like I get a few subscribers to many subscribers just about every single day. You know, sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. And unless it's going through that purge, it's always seemingly to be increasing. There are times when it increases a lot, you know, and it's just like, wow, you know, like you see the numbers jumping up like, you know, weekly or whatever. But then other times that the videos aren't being spread around to new viewers, it's only going around to my current viewers. So when the video gets shared by my viewers, then the algorithm says, oh, well, yeah, we want to share this one too. And so as the people themselves within the channel views, like when I have a video that comes out that's like probably new information or something that's unique or something they want to share with people and not this the same old kind of thing over and over again, then that gets shared, right? And when that gets shared, then all of a sudden new people are watching and then they start subscribing. But if it's just kind of like, you know, I hate to say it, but the same old boring uneducated economist breaking down monetary policy again, you know, doing that thing, then most likely the only people who are going to be interested in that are the people who are actually following the channel. Because everybody else has to learn it first before they can actually even involve themselves in the conversation. All right, uneducated economist, just playing the entire UE 49 video playlist before you go to bed at night to boost the algorithm. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, man. All right, 4.99. I looked up the Fed funds rate about 4%. We're still close. Fed funds rate about 4%. We are still close, and it would only take one downturn to put us back at the effective lower bound. Absolutely. Absolutely. You're 100% correct about that. It would only take one significant downturn to send us back down to the effective lower bound. The point being about that is that now they have the ammunition. Right? Like, I mean, would it be significant ammunition only having 4 percentage points? I guess it depends on how they deployed the information. They could get a lot more power out of it, but essentially they have ammunition again. If they hit the effective lower bound, they will be out of ammunition. It will all be gone. Yeah, go read Jerome Powell's speech, or better yet, go join the membership. It's only $1 a month. It's the cheapest membership you could ever possibly find, packed full of information. $12 a year, right? I mean, $120 for a decade of good, hardcore information that you will not get anywhere else. And you get to support the uneducated economist $1 at a time. if they feel the economy is fragile and in need of stimulation, they probably can't let the stock market crash because that would just compound the lack of money flow. They kind of seem stuck. Well, I think that's probably you probably feel that they're stuck because you think that they're going to be like protecting the stock market or the housing market or the administration or something of that nature. That's just simply not the case. And although I think a lot of people will disagree with it, and that's fine, you can disagree with me all day. Point being is that everything that I have studied from monetary policy, understanding the Federal Reserve, how it is that they conduct themselves, that is not part of their concern. Right? Not the stock market, not the housing market, and certainly not the administration. Right? That is like the last thing that they are concerned about. The thing that they're concerned about is that if somebody wants to buy a house and they want to borrow money to do it, they want to make sure that there's a loan that they can get. That's their biggest concern. Is that if there's somebody out there, if there's people out there, if there's business who want to borrow money, they want to make sure that there is a loan there to do it. It may not be a good loan, it may not be, available necessarily because their credit is no good or something of that nature, but if the idea of borrowing money to start businesses, borrow money to buy houses, borrow money to go off and take out for vacations or whatever, the Federal Reserve wants to make sure that there's a loan there for them to do it. They are in charge of the financial conditions, right? To make sure that people can borrow money. Now, again, they need to tighten or ease those financial conditions in order to get that to happen, but that's what they're doing. Right. So as people are able to borrow money and then dump it into the stock market and explode their wealth, and people go like, "Oh, look at what the Federal Reserve is doing," and it was just like, well, they wasn't like necessarily doing that, right? This is what some people did with it. Right? Other people went and bought somebody at McDonald's went and borrowed money to buy a Lexus, and that's what they did with the borrow money. Way different. Like the Federal Reserve didn't do that to them, right? That was their own stupid mistake. Much like it was their smart mistake for the other guy. And that's the way, and that's just the way it is. Some people are smart and some people aren't. Right. And some people know exactly how to take advantage of the situation, take advantage of it, manipulate it. And then people say, oh, man, they did that on purpose. So it was like, well, no kidding. They did it on purpose. They knew exactly what they were doing. Now, did the Federal Reserve make those people do it on purpose? Of course not. They're trying to figure out ways to regulate and make sure things like that don't happen, but people are clever and they figure it out. And if you're really close to it, then you really understand how to manipulate and work around the systems. you know and that's the unfortunate situation we're now in. I mean, we can blame them all day long. Hey, don't do it. Like, of course they won't, right? Yeah. Oops. I have wondered also how YouTube chooses who get membership. When you gift memberships, I really don't know how that works. And I really appreciate those who do gift the memberships. It's like kind of paying it forward. People who get gifted a membership, it would be cool if they gifted memberships ahead. Like, hey, you get gifted a membership, support the Uneducated Economist by buying memberships, buy 10 memberships for other people, and just increase and grow the membership on the channel. For one, it supports me incredibly. Thank you so much for all the support. But then two, it also helps to keep the conversation in line. Like, the membership channel is so much better. Like, you guys have no clue. Like, I understand that those who follow me here on this channel, who are very consistent, and even though they're not a member here, I put out a lot of content. The comment section on the member only channel is such a tight community. I mean, it's way different. It's good. It's not like this is good. It's good too, but it's on a different level. I mean, just ask some of the people who are there. You can see their membership. The little membership icon there. Oops. Stay up right here. Membership live chats are top notch. They really are. Like I wish I could go through more of them, but like once the videos, like once I end the video, then all the chats go away and then it's all over. I'm no longer part of the conversation. All right. Why are you trying to burst my bubble? Who are you talking about, deplorable? It's rigged like the system. Sounds like fitting term may be you've gifted an abundance of memberships. Good work, man. Thank you so much. I mean, everybody. I really do. I mean, oh, that's Michael's phone. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. I don't know how to. Oh, wait a minute. There it is. No, it isn't. Anyway. All right. Have anyone heard of Owen Benjamin at the Bear Community? Yeah, there's an interview that he did on my channel here. You can go back and find it. I think actually, do I have a playlist of all the interviews? I don't know. Dishes does. Dishes has a playlist, I think, of all Dishes every day. She put a playlist together of all the interviews from the Uneducated Economist. So, but yeah, Owen Benjamin, I mean, you could probably Google it and find it. Uneducated Economist Owen Benjamin interview. UE Talks with Owen Benjamin, I think is the title of it. Owen is a friend of the show. Yes, he is. And I haven't talked to him for a while, but I should give him an email, send him an email and see what he's up to. Super cool guy, man. I didn't really follow much, and then like we did the interview together, and he was such a cool guy. I mean, did a great interview for the channel. It was awesome. All right, what's the next lottery numbers? God, I wish we all knew. Yui's interviews went better than the Curtis Stone talk the other day. Chat GPT said instead of relying on assets, relying on inflation to increase. Said instead of relying on assets, relying on inflation to increase. We need to rely on productivity for the increasing. Productivity, like that's not something you're going to be really good at, considering that there's so many people out there who do such a better. Hold on one second. Hey guys, are you about ready to lose your kayak? Is your kayak going to float away? Yeah. Always got to keep an eye on these kids. Like, the tide's coming up, so you can't just leave it on the shore, or else the tide's going to come and grab it and take it away. The tide here moves fast. It is really incredible. Like, you can have, I think it was a 7-foot tide today. So over the course of like what 6 hours or so, the water will move up quite dramatically and fast. Where are we at? All right. What was the mail truck? That was a mail truck. Oh yeah. I mean, there's houses up here. So supply and demand equilibrium with currency and circulation as another metric to consider. Yep. Oh, we were talking about productivity. That's right. So, yeah, you guys are going to lose your kayak. I know, I know. Oh, is it tied? Oh, well, never mind. I didn't know it was tied. I thought it was just sit there pinned against the bridge. Sorry. They don't never say anything. They're like, all right, Dad, I'll go get the kayak. But productivity. There's so many people out there in the world producing all the world's greatest stuff now that we can't not necessarily compete against it. Like there's some things that we can do, but to try and compete against the rest of the world, it's not going to really be like it's not going to really be easy to do. I'm not saying you can't do it, but it's just like lowering your standard of living would probably be the easiest way to compete, right? Or wait around for them to raise their standard of living so you can, and then maintain yours so you don't increase yours and let them elevate theirs. I don't know. Like, I just don't see how that's going to happen. They're not going to bring productivity back. I mean, as much as people wish and hope and dream it does, I just don't see it happening. Screw production, counterfeit fiat. Yeah. Well, I mean, we get to buy the world's greatest stuff or nothing. Right? Where did you get the shades? I bought them. I bought them online. All right, even a world recession won't bring their productivity down. Can AI figure out the next lottery numbers? I love it. Certain sectors can compete with government subsidies. Yeah, but then I mean, that's the thing. Like, people say, well, what about subsidies? What about, all this? Well, then you're going to have ever increasing amounts of government intervention, right? I mean, and then you rely, like the moment that government gets out of the way, boom, your job is gone. So it's like you're relying on the government at that point, and there's no, like, that's not a way to live. I mean, would it work? Sure, but it's a manipulation. It's a manipulation in the idea that your free market no longer is viable for you, and that they have to manipulate the situation to try and make it stay consistent for you. Like, your job is leaving. No, we're going to throw money at the problem to keep your job here, and it's going to take ever increasing amounts of money to keep your job here. And there's no way that's going to be competitive against somebody who's not doing that. Right? It's just like, it's not going to work. I mean, it'll work for a short time, but then the underlying economic forces are still eroding the problem, right? It's still causing the erosion. All right. Nice spare tire. Yeah, thanks. I'm betting the next crisis will be something along the lines of a major crash in the markets caused by automated AI trading. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see that. I mean, ultimately, that would be a liquidity crisis taking place, right? As people are dumping out their stocks, trying to get a hold of as much money as they can. And then what you're going to end up finding is that people are not going to be able to acquire the money they need to pay off their debts, and that's going to start spiraling out of control. So I could see something like that taking place. But yeah, maybe, when, don't know. That's kind of like, a what if, a big giant what if. A poor person in Mississippi makes more than most in the UK actually should have better living. Well, just because you're making more than another person doesn't mean the living conditions can be easier, right? Like, Cantillon explains that how a what was it, a tailor or whatever in the UK gets paid 10 times the amount that one in China, like an embroiderer, that's an embroiderer or something like that. I forget what they were describing, but talking about how the ones in the UK get paid 10 times as much as the ones in China get paid, right? And China puts out far more and better quality than the one in the UK, right? So the UK one gets paid higher, but really it's not going to create any kind of better condition for, like, how am I going to say, because he's in that situation of the economy. Being a broader, making 10 times as much as a Chinese one, probably didn't give him a much better standard of living. He was probably still some poor broke dude, right? It looks like some kids are going to jump off the bridge. Well, that ought to be fun. Kids come down here to jump off the bridge all the time. It's not how much you make, it's how much you save and invest. That's exactly right. It's always about how much you can save and invest. It's funny because I saw a comment The other day, I was just like, man, I can't believe I learned so much from somebody who only invests $100 a week. And I laughed at that. And I was like, you do realize that I invest a lot more than that, right? That's just what I talk about. I mean, there's a lot more investment going on. I saw that water, not really something I would want surrounding me. Yeah, I don't blame you all nighter. I don't go swimming in it either, but I was a kid, so there's a lot of float houses and just yeah, it looks pretty industrial around here. All right, not true. There is a level that you have make to cover housing, food, and etc. Okay, you're right. Right, there's a certain level that you, so the idea that it doesn't matter how much you make but how much you save, yes, absolutely, that is the case, and I do agree. There is a certain level in which that you have to make, right, in order to maintain the position that you have taken. See, if you work a job that pays $50,000 a year and you live in your car, how much money can you save? And you're like, oh, but who wants to live in your car? No, you don't want to live in your car. I know people who do. I know people who do and are saving and have way more money than I do, have way more options than I have, and they're living in their car. I mean, they don't always live in their car, but there's times, right? I mean, they'll stay at other people's houses and they don't look homeless. They're just a regular, average, everyday dude who doesn't have a place to live, and he is saving like you wouldn't believe. I kind of envious in some ways. Now, that's the case. You can earn $150,000 a year and be completely broke. Have no way of being able to come up with $400 in case of an emergency. And I know this to be the case because I've seen people who've done it. So at the same time that I know somebody who is saving probably $25,000 a year simply by living in their car and having a regular old day job, comparatively to somebody who's making $150,000 a year and can't even come up with $400 in case of an emergency. It's absolutely, absolutely about everything about how you save, right? It's not so much about how much money you make. You can make a lot of money. Go for it. Go make a bunch of money, but you're probably going to end up spending it and creating a condition of life that has to be maintained with elevated income, right? But if you can elevate your income and cut your expenses down, man, talk about how much money you can save, deploy that money into a secured rate of interest so that you can have money beyond that of your occupation, continue to live that way and keep stacking it up. And at the end of your life, you got so much money, you can do whatever the hell you want. You could travel around all day long, stay in hotels, eat whatever you want, and have that money still pouring in every single day. You could create yourself a money machine. Yeah? It's absolutely about how much money you save. It doesn't have really anything to do with how much money you make. All right. I mean, it does. You have to make some money. You have to be in the flow, but you don't have to make a lot. Yeah, that's where I think a lot of times people get very hung up on the idea. It's like I have to make a lot of money. If you make a lot of money, then you can really do it. Well, yeah, sure you can, but you know how hard it is to make a lot of money. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of dedication, a lot of time, a lot of sacrifice and other things in your life in order to acquire that $1 million. You get the $1 million, you're like, yeah, I did it. And you look back and you're like, family's all pissed off because you weren't there. Oh, real fortunate, weren't you? You're like, but look at all the security and all this. And they're like, man, all we wanted was for you to hang out. Right? Like, was it worth it? It's not about the money. It's never been about the money. Right? I mean, it is. It's about the money, but it's not about the money. The money is just an energy just like anything else out there. Being in the flow, being in the condition of it, being in the right spot, and being willing to receive it. All right? That's the other thing. A lot of times people are just not willing to be in a position of receiving the money. They don't, for one, they have the mental block. They literally don't think that it can come in an abundance in that fashion. Like you could just sit there and just have money flow to you, and it's like, yeah, you really can. You have to build it. It takes brick by brick to put that thing together. But yeah, you can absolutely just be sitting there and have money just flowing to you. Yeah. And since most people have been raised with this understanding that that's not possible, I mean, it's not their fault. It's the victim of circumstances. The music, the movies, the family, the school, the friends, everything around you has given you this mental condition that says, man, life is hard. Everything is difficult. Money's distant. It's always fleeting. right? And this is the way that a lot of people feel. I used to feel that way. I mean, I felt that way tremendously. Like that was my core of my understanding of money, but I flipped the script, right? And I said, no, man, money doesn't run from me. Money flows to me. I can condition my life in order to keep that money flowing to me, right? To make sure that I don't let it just to flow past me, like with debt, like taking out a lot of debt. You get the money flowing in and then it flows right back out, right? This is like understanding the energy of it, just be in the energy of flow, right? And understand how it is that you can get there. Not everybody, quite kind of gets that. Like the simplest way to get into flow is go get a 9 to 5 job, right? 8 hours in the morning, as soon as you wake up, 8 o'clock in the morning, bang, right? Or not as soon as you wake up, but as soon as you get to work, 8 o'clock in the morning, boom, you're in flow, and you're in flow till 5. And as soon as they're out of flow, they think, oh gosh, I worked so hard at being in flow. What should I do? Well, it's me time. Chase pleasure, right? And so they'll go down to the bar and then spend all their excellence chasing pleasure. And that's an unfortunate circumstances for most people out there. That's the way they conduct themselves. And so once I learned that, I was like, okay, so I can be in the flow from 8 to 5, and then how am I in the flow after that? Like, how do I get into the flow again after I have ended my day job for the day? Right? And so understanding that there is small places that you can go to start getting some sort of return. And I think a lot of times people think, well, it's not enough. Right. And I'm thinking, you go out there. I mean, what if it takes you like 3 days to figure out a way to earn $10 on the internet? And people are like, oh, dude, what a waste of time. And I'm like, is it a waste of time? I mean, you had your day job, right? You were in the flow from 8 to 5, and then you weren't doing anything after that. So if it took you 3 days, right, of after your day job in order to figure out how to make $10, you have just figured out how to get into flow. It took you 3 days to figure out how to get into flow. Right? Not to earn $10. Don't think about the time. Oh, gosh, you're never going to get paid back for your time. That's silly, right? You have to understand that your time is going to get leveraged by understanding how to get into the flow. Because once you get into the flow, once you figure out how to make that $10, then you can duplicate it, make 20, make 40, make 80. You start leveraging that up, and then pretty soon you're making money while you sleep. Right? And how to do that, right? Well, there's dividend paying stocks, there's businesses out there. You could start YouTube channels and blogs, and there's all kinds of stuff out there that gets you into that sort of condition. And it has to, you can follow somebody else and say, here, man, let me tell you, step 1, step 2, step 3. But really, you can figure this out for yourself if you just think to yourself, okay, after my day job, what am I going to do to try and earn $1? And I don't care how hard I have to work to get it, right? Or what it is that I have to do to get it. I just want to figure out how it is that I can earn $1 outside of my day job. Right? Think about that every single day, unique ways of doing that. Like yesterday, I thought of this way to get $1. Today, I'm thinking of this way to get $1. Right? And you think of those, you're going to have a flash of inspiration that'll actually bring you in some significant money, right? Because your brain is thinking, subconscious, like, okay, you want to be in the flow of money. You want to be earning dollars, all the time. You want to be and leverage your time and all that other stuff. Your brain starts thinking that way. Most people, their subconscious, the brain is thinking, it's Trump's fault. And that's like, and then no way in the world can they ever get in the flow doing that, right? Because there's no energy of flow when you're blaming somebody else. I wonder if they're gonna jump. All right. Justin, thank you so much for the $5. Work won't set you free, but work and wise investment might. Well, I would certainly agree with that. That wise investments will, but even sense that people will end up enslaving themselves with their investments, being so obsessed with it. Right. And so in a sense, they will create this investment thing and say, no, I'm obsessed. I got to work every day, save every dollar, and put it all into the stocks. And then if I do it, I can grow this thing up, and then I won't have to work anymore. And then I'll be all nervous about the stock market and everything that's going on with it. And then I'll be a slave to that thing. Right. So it's like the condition that you put yourself in. It's important. Letting things go is the easiest way to create abundance. Just put yourself in the flow and let it go of the outcome. Okay. Like I don't think about how much money I'm going to be making. I really don't. I just don't think about it at all. At the end of the month, at the end of the day, I might go and look and see, okay, how well did it do or something of that nature. But at the time, I don't think like this is so important to do. I have to get the money. I have to do it. If it doesn't do it, it's going to be the end of my world or whatever. Absolutely not. That is the furthest thing from my mind. Same thing with like sales, you know, the actual sale of like the transaction is really the last thing on my mind. That's not the part that I'm thinking about. The part that I'm thinking about is what is it that I need to do to make sure that the customer gets the informed decision. It makes an informed decision that I am providing them with the appropriate material, that I'm doing it at a fair markup, all those things, like all those things that I am offering. But the actual transaction itself, the important part, that's the furthest thing from my mind. That is the last thing. Like that is the absolute. Like I am like almost. Oh yeah, the transaction. Like oh shit, God. We did all this other work to try and get to right here, the important part, and I didn't even think about it. Right? I was like, oh yeah, I got to get your money. Okay, give me the card. Think. Okay, great. It was working with you guys for the last half hour. It has been wonderful. You wonderful people. Thank you so much. The transaction was that quick. It didn't. That the important part, instantaneous, come and gone from the moment, didn't even really think about it. Right? But so many people are hung up. Okay, when is the transaction going to happen? Are they going to do it today? Are they going to do the whole thing? Maybe are they going to? Do I have to convince them to do the transaction? Like that sort of energy, repelling. It'll push the transaction right out of there. You'll never see it. I don't know what they're doing. I thought they were going to jump, but they're just driving around up on the bridge. Not a lot of billionaires comparatively. I don't know, what are you guys talking about? I cut vaping weed, and that is like another 100K in the bank, which at 4% earns $12 a day. Well, you went from spending $12 a day to getting $12 a day, right? So really, it's like $24 a day. I was told to worry does not go away. Once you have the money, now you just start worrying about losing it. Worry about keeping it. Um, no, no. That's only some people who had a desperate, needy energy in acquiring it in the first place. But if you didn't have that to begin with, then that's not part of your concern, right? That comes from people who were in a desperation in order to acquire it, and then once they did, they're in desperation to keep it. They're in a state of desperation. They had been the entire time. Like some people, it holds them back, and other people, it doesn't seem to hold them back, but then it does mentally and physically because now they're like, I can't spend the money on that. I can't do it on that. I couldn't, I got to hold on to this thing, right? And so they feel that, and it's just as bad. It's just as mentally deteriorating as not having it. True that. Quitting weed is tough. Big money saver once you do, though, and life gets better. Yeah, I mean, I certainly found that with alcohol. I mean, I was much more into alcohol, or like alcohol deteriorating my life. And yeah, once I gave up alcohol, like everything changed. What time is it? Oh, okay, guys. You know what? I am going to call it quits. For one, my battery's about ready to die. And these boys are just about done here hanging out. And I'm going to have to take Michael home here after too long. God, they're having such fun. I just don't want to give it up. But yeah, my phone is going to die here before too long, so I do have to call it quits. But I really appreciate everybody coming out today talking about what it is that we can do with the new monetary policy. We got 187 people watching with 92 likes. Be sure and hit that like button. By hitting the thumbs up, the algorithm will pick up the video, spread it around for more people to join in. And the conversation is always so much better when we have new people coming in and learning for the first time and sharing the ideas and asking questions and getting the answers from the community. this is really how we're doing it. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you everybody for hitting that like button. Thank you so much for the super chats. You guys are awesome. The support for the channel is just incredible. Thank you for gifting those memberships out there. Gifting memberships is the best way to spread this information around for people to join in and enjoy the conversations that we have on the member-only live streams, where we break down some of the toughest understandings of monetary policy so that the working class, the average everyday dude, can then internalize this information so they can be making appropriate decisions for themselves. Thank you everybody for being here. Uneducated Economist, you guys let me know.